It seems a long time ago. A boy named Bill lived in a very dangerous country named Chicago. Yeah, Bill had a good friend. His name was George. And George, he had a grandfather who lived there in the area who was, he's getting a bit old to take care of his main business, which was the raising of songbirds. Yeah, George's grandfather was a songbird farmer in Chicago. The entire upstairs of his house literally had been turned into a free-range finch cage. He had all sorts of tropical finches living up there. We used to have to go and take care of all these for him. See, that he had gotten kind of old, and it was hard for him to keep up after this, but he still got his income from it. So George had been taking care of his grandpa's birds, and when George and I became friends, George naturally recruited me to help. I guess you could say it was probably my first job. I was pretty young, and honestly, if it paid anything at all, I can't remember. It probably didn't. But, taking care of George's grandpa, whatever. George was a great friend. So we did this thing. Like I say, all upstairs. We'd lay newspapers out over the floor, change them out for the finches, and put feed out there and water. And every once in a while, some guys with nets from the pet industry would show up and literally net finches, pay grandpa by the pieces and take them out of there, sell them to somebody. Downstairs in the basement, he had everything from Amazon parrots and cockatoos to a lot of parakeets and quite a few singing canaries. There were a lot of singing canaries. And, this again, we had to clean the cages, put out feed for the birds and water them. And, we did this, go by several times a week to help his grandpa with the birds. And after a few months, we kind of started thinking, here we are taking care of these animals for him, but geez, maybe we ought to raise something too. And he had this great big cage. I don't know what it had been from, maybe from Amazon parrots. Maybe it was a big cage. And it wasn't being used. Well, we went down to the pet store, and we were looking at stuff, and, we checked out all sorts of different possible pets that we might have, but even the guinea pigs and the hamsters were a little bit out of our price range. We had like 25 cents maybe clutched in our hot little hands. It turned out that the only thing in our range was white mice. And so we got ourselves a pair of white mice. We took them home, and we took this great big cage his grandpa had and, filled the bottom, with the cedar shavings, and then went and took cardboard boxes and stuff, and we built mouse condominiums, skyscrapers, mouse freeways. We had little roads running all through there, and we built this whole town for the mice years before hamster habit trails, were invented. It was something on that order, but we made it ourselves. And everything went along pretty well for a while. The mice started breeding, and we ended up getting mouse litters, and I don't know, starting off I think with 2 mice. After a while, I'm pretty sure we were well over 2 or 3 dozen. And as the population kept rising, we suddenly realized, wow, look at that, we have multiplication. We paid for these mice are worth money, we can sell them. Wow. And so we went out trying to recruit customers for our mice. As it turned out, that wasn't that easy to do. There weren't that many people out there who wanted to have white mice. Turned out there was one girl in my classroom who volunteered to, I believe, pay us $0.25 a piece for little white mice. And so she took a little mouse home with her that night. Well, next morning in school, I come in and I got my mouse back in a paper bag. The girl's mother would not even allow the mouse to come inside the house. There was no way that was going to happen. So we began to realize it wasn't that easy selling mice. They breed well, but they don't sell well. And I guess we got pretty discouraged over the first sale, and I don't recall even trying to sell any more mice after that. So what happened was the mice kept multiplying. Well, one day we came down in the cellar to take care of the birds and walked up to the mouse cage, and there's corpses laying here and there. Bull mice had gotten into it, fighting, and they killed each other and tore each other's throats out. It was pretty gross. It certainly wasn't exactly the cute little white pink-nosed mice that we had brought home that were so nice and friendly, and we'd pet them and everything. No, they were starting to turn into brutes. Well, then didn't take too much time, and one of the females had another litter, and when we come in on it, what we find is that one of the males had eaten all of the children. Yeah, pretty soon we had more death, guts, destruction, and disease, too. Mice would just suddenly fall over, for no particular reason. If they weren't battling with each other or being cannibalistic and eating each other's children, things just kept getting worse and worse and worse until we couldn't stand it any longer. It was just, this was not what the idea had been. And so we had to dispatch our mice, break the cage down, get rid of everything. And so we broke it all down and kind of dragged ourselves home with our tails between our legs, realizing that one of our first business ventures as entrepreneurs had been a complete failure, total failure. Yeah, well, that night I went to sleep, had a dream. And in the dream, I'm standing outside my mouse cage and staring in, but inside, instead of Mouseburg, I see the city of Chicago. And it dawned on me, at that time, there was only, only 1/3 the people on this earth that we have here today. Our population has grown exponentially. And right along with it, I believe we start seeing more illness, more pandemics, more viruses, more diseases running amok. And we start to see senseless activities like school shootings and mall shootings, and, well, without carrying on about it, what I'm seeing out there in the world today looks pretty much like what I saw when I was staring into my mouse cage as an 8-year-old boy. It seems that we all have genetic triggers that once things reach a certain level, when density is just too much, they trigger. And we're essentially almost out of our control. It runs beneath the surface. What causes this? I'm sure that the mice that were killing each other and eating children, they had been nice, friendly little mice previously until they reached a certain population load. And people do exactly the same thing. And so much of the irrational behavior you see in the streets today is really mostly because of excessive population of humans on the face of the planet. Our mouse cage is getting too small, folks. Yeah. Well, Anyway, I guess I put that one out there because it's a little bit on the horrible side. It's grim and Halloween's coming. And I couldn't think of another ghost story. Aloha. Hang loose.